breaks the larger bits of rock down into smaller pieces, about the size of a softball. All the ore was then sent to a second machine called a cone crusher. Like a giant pepper mill, it crunches up the salt balls into even smaller pieces, about grape size. And from here, conveyor belts carry the crushed ore to the grinding mills. This is where the rock went into large rotating drums, filled with either steel rods or balls like this one.
It's always heavier than I remember.
The balls tumbled around inside the drums and smashed the rock into even smaller pieces. From there, we go to secondary grinding. Now mixed with water, the ore was washed into more ball mills. And as you can see, there were a lot of them. The ore was then eventually ground down to the consistency of fine sand and water. But now all the different mineral grains in that muddy slurry had to be sorted out. And this is where it gets really interesting. They actually found a way to get rock to float. Well, some of it anyway. In flotation, the ground up rock and water mixture was poured into drums. Certain aromatic oils were added. Here in Britannia, they like to use pine oil. Then, air was pumped to the bottom of the troughs to create bubbles. As the air bubbles rose through the liquid, the bits of copper mineral clung to them and were drawn to the surface, while the other minerals just sank to the bottom.
The copper-rich bubbles remained in a froth on the surface where they could be skimmed off. This bubbling mixture often filled the mill with the scent of pine oil. The fourth stage dewatering happened right over there. The froth was piped into large wooden thickening tanks where this time the copper minerals settled to the bottom. This muddy mixture would then be piped into vats where the water was sucked out through canvas filters, leaving a sort of mineral cake behind called copper concentrate. But not the sort of cake you want to put a candle in, because this is how it looked.
This is what was sent to the smelters to be refined into pure copper metal.
So that's the process. That's how mill number 3 turned rock into copper concentrate. And that's still pretty much how we process minerals today to get the metals that we use in our everyday lives. But you know, this mill was also the pulse of a community. For the townspeople of Britannia Beach, the mechanical coming from this building day and night must have been strangely comforting. Because if they heard those booming sounds, they knew the economy was booming, the mine was producing, and there'd be a paycheck to support their families. Of course, here inside the mill was a very different story. It was sometimes so noisy that the workers could barely hear themselves think. I wish there was some way of showing you just how really loud it was in here.